Hi guys, I see you coming back. We'll see if we get. Oh, I see Marianas Trench official. So let's see if I can grab Josh. Please, good Lord. Okay, it says go live. Let's see. It said that it's gonna go live, so let's see if this works out. It says it's waiting to connect. So we will hope again. Oh, it says connecting. There he is! Oh my God!
Oh my God!
Josh, thank you so much for hanging in. I appreciate it.
Oh my God, it only took us an hour!
How are you?
I'm good, how are you doing?
I'm so happy to see your face. Thank you so much for doing this. I'm like, you're always like, you're like so happy and smiley, and I really appreciate that. So thank you.
Oh, thanks. You're looking very festive back there. Are those Christmas lights?
It's my fake palm tree with Christmas lights.
I love it. I love the mixed messages of it.
Exactly. It's my version of like the rainbow, and because in Montreal, I don't know if you guys are doing it across the country, but we have this thing because of the pandemic. We call it "Ça va bien aller." It's all going to be okay. That's kind of the so that's my version of "Ça va bien aller."
Okay, I like it.
Okay, cool. So let's start. I want to talk to you. I have to talk to you about the cooking because that's what I ended off with your fans. I love RocknRoll Kitchen.
Oh, thanks. Also, first of all, hey guys, you see this right here? That? Let me warn you guys at home, if you're testing out how something tastes while you're cooking, make sure to blow on it first, because if it drips on your face, you can burn the hell out of yourself.
Did you do that today?
I did. This is like 3 days old.
Okay. And can I ask you what you burn yourself, like hot sauce or something?
It was like tomato soup.
The perils of being a chef. Let's talk about RocknRoll Kitchen. When did you start this? It's awesome. I watched your video today on the smash burger. Like that's epic.
I started cooking. My lady and I were split up at the time, and I kind of like, I was going through like a really serious sort of personal time on a lot of different levels, and I needed to do something creative, but I had writer's block at the time, and I like kind of couldn't write. This was before recording our album Astoria. So I kind of spent like six months in like a really bad depression, and then I was like, I need to do something creative. That's it. I'm learning how to cook right now. And then I just kind of dove in and like, basically through like, you know, YouTube and whatnot, basically just sort of like took myself to culinary school, I guess.
That's amazing. And I wanted to ask you because when I was watching some of the videos, I feel like this is Josh Ramsay's way of being creative when you maybe don't feel like being creative musically, even if it's just a day or an hour or whatever.
Kind of. You know what it is? Like, obviously I'm a creative guy and I love doing anything that is creative. But for me, like sometimes like beginning an album can be a bit of a daunting process to look at, because I might be looking at like the next 10 months of my life working on this one thing. Whereas, you know, if you're making something to eat, like an afternoon tops, you're done.
That's amazing. And you have like a serious amount of followers on your like YouTube channel. Is it something you think you're gonna like keep trying to pursue and do all that kind of stuff with?
I wasn't doing it seriously. Like, I mean, I kind of have a job, but I kind of just did it because like fans started asking us to like just start posting clips like that. So I was like, okay, well, when we have spare time, I can get my friends drunk and throw them on camera. Sure, I can do that.
Well, I love how real you are when you're doing it though. Like it's totally you, and it's like it's not fake and it's not put on. It's like Josh having a good time in the kitchen. So.
Yeah, and I think for a lot of people, like including like myself, like years ago, I think when you're approaching like cooking stuff like for the first time, it can seem quite intimidating because you're like, I don't know, what does this go with this and this, and like I like to keep a real kind of like laid back approach in the kitchen and just kind of have fun, because really what it comes down to is like you're not delivering some opus, you're feeding people, and that's a lovely thing to do.
That's good. Well, I was telling people before when we were trying to connect that I make a salad, and that's pretty much where I'm at. So now I'm going to start watching your YouTube channel more and learn.
Okay.
Yeah. I always wanted to ask you, because the last time you and I spoke, it was the band. So we kind of did a band interview, but I wanted to ask you, how did you get into music? Like, was it always going to be your career path, you think?
Probably. So like pretty much everyone in my family is a musician. So I grew up in a very different sort of artsy household. Like my father had this recording studio where it was like, Aerosmith and like all these like 80s bands were recording and stuff. So if I went to work with my dad, that's what was going on there. Or like AC/DC or something. And then all of those singers from those bands would be taking singing lessons from my mom in our house. So like I actually thought that like every adult just was a musician until I was about 8 years old. I just thought that's what you do when you grow up. And like my siblings are all really musical. My parents are super musical. Like when I was a kid, like when we went on like road trips and stuff like that, like family vacations and stuff, my dad would sing a note and then he would tell, like my mom would sing a note and then he would tell the three of us, the siblings, to each sing this note, and then we'd all sing at the same time. And then he'd be like, okay, that's called the C7. And like, that's how I learned music theory and stuff.
That's awesome. I read, and you correct me if I'm wrong, that you can actually play 13 instruments. Is that true?
It's been a while since I've counted, but it sounds about right, probably. I don't know.
You have one that's like your spirit instrument, that's like your jam?
I mean, certainly like there's a thing about singing because you're actually using your own voice and your own body. There's a certain expressiveness that you're never going to be able to get out of another instrument that you can out of this instrument. Yeah. I think the closest is probably bowed string instruments because it's also quite human sounding if you think about it. Like, yeah. You know, you still have that sort of human pull to it.
Yeah.
In terms of just getting out some frustration, there's something very satisfying about playing drums.
That's true. When you are writing the album, first of all, do you do most of the writing? Like most of the lyric writing is all you, right? For the most part? Okay. Yeah. So do you then take that to the band and then like they start putting in their parts, or you've already kind of put in their parts for them?
Basically what we do, basically the process is usually, I will be doing something completely unrelated, like cooking or like walking my dog or whatever, just driving around, you know, doing errands or whatever. And if a melody pops in my head and it stays there and gets stuck, if like by a few days later that melody is still stuck in my head, then I think maybe I have something, because maybe if it gets stuck in my head, maybe it could get stuck in somebody else's head. And I'll sort of develop the idea just internally. And then once I'm sure that I have the melody figured out, again, like not playing anything, just like walking around doing other things, then I'll start to picture what music could go with that melody, what chords would best support it. Because the same note could work in a lot of different chords. So I start to sort of like piece together all of those things in my head, and then go to the studio and just kind of go from there. And then the other guys in the band will be like, "That's a good idea. That's not a good idea." And there you have it. So basically, it works out to, it's my job to come up with all the creative things, yeah, and then it's other guys' job to edit what I put out. So like I might put out like 300% more than what we actually use, and like that's where Matt is very useful, because Matt will be like, we don't need that, we don't need that, we don't need that. And I'm like, you sure? And he's like, yeah, man. You know, my problem is never not enough ideas. It's always too many.
And do you actually, Josh, ever start with like just like a song title idea, or is it always like melody or lyrics first?
I think there's certainly no rules to that type of thing. I might start from a riff. I might start from a melody. I might start from a lyric. I do have a lyric book that's just got little scratches in it, like just little like 2 sentences here, 2 sentences there, and then I can look through it later and see if there's something that I like. But usually for me, it's melody, music, lyrics. I don't quite understand. I do know some songwriters that will start with a title and work backwards from there. Chad Kroeger is very much like that. When I worked on the Nickelback record with him, he's very storytelling based, so he starts there and works backwards. One time I was working on a record with Simple Plan, and the way those guys work, right, Montreal, of course, you guys love them there. Yeah, so Pierre and Chuck came to my studio, and the way those guys work is Chuck actually shows up with a notebook, and he's written down like maybe like 35 song titles, yeah, and then a quick breakdown of what the song could be about and how it could flow. So let's say, I don't know, let's say this next song that we're writing is called Blank Sticky Pad. Yeah. So then he might be like, okay, so the chorus, we're talking about the blank sticky pad. So maybe the first verse, we're going to talk about what we're going to write on the sticky pad. The chorus will be like all the uses for the sticky pad. Second verse, we could talk about the color of the sticky pad. And then maybe the bridge, we can break away from it and talk about like how maybe there's like tears in the sticky pad and we have to put them back together. And he's got like a whole breakdown of what it could be. Yeah. So you kind of like hash out these song titles with those guys for like a couple of days. And then once we've arrived at what you're going to work at, then Pierre starts filling in music and he goes from there. So, I mean, everyone kind of has a different thing. I think ideally, if you do have a song title first, that's probably your best option, just in terms of having a song title before you write the lyrics, because I have gotten myself trapped so many times where I'm writing a song, and then you get to that part in the chorus where very obviously the song title should go here, right? Like, I don't know, like a song of ours, it gets to the cross my heart and hope to die. If I don't have that when I get there, I'm like, great, so now I need to insert a song title here. It must be 3 syllables long and use these 3 notes. That's a very difficult spot to be. If you're starting from that title and working backwards, it can be a lot easier for me anyway.
I love that you wrote that song Pop 101. I love that. When it came out, like, I love playing that. I thought it was brilliant that you guys actually came up with a song about writing a song. Like,
thank you. I came up with that idea. You know what? You know what's funny? That's a really funny footnote in our career, that song. I'm glad you like it. Thank you. I came up with that idea. So you know how like people do AMAs on Reddit?
Yeah.
So I did one at one point, and a couple of people started getting angry at me for having involvement with Call Me Maybe. And they were like, oh, it took 2 of you to write that piece of crap about, you know, online stuff. You can never make everyone happy. I know this. Yeah. But anyway, it was a whole bunch of people being like, wow, 2 people wrote that song? God, I think like half a kid could have written that song, like that kind of thing. And then I was like, really? You think it's so easy? I'm going to give you a list exactly how to do it. And that's kind of where that song started. So maybe not from the friendliest place, but I kind of had this idea where I was like, okay, so we're going to have a song, and what we're going to do is we're going to do every gimmick that everyone is doing right now, and I'm going to explain exactly what is happening in the song at all times. So that was a basic idea that I had. Yeah. And then going from there, then working on it in the studio is like, turned out to be a lot more difficult than I thought, because like, for one, I still wanted it to be a good song. I still want it to be singable, and I don't want it to be so silly that it's like Andy Samberg and the Lonely Island. I love that stuff, but this is not going to be a song on Saturday Night Live. It's going to be a real song. So the problem became like, I don't want it to be too silly, but I want it to be clever. And then every time I changed a lyric, we had to re-record that section of the song because something was changing, and it's all sort of in real time in that song. And then the funny thing is everyone, like industry-wise, got really excited about it, and like our US label was very excited about it. We were on Interscope at the time, and everyone was fired up about it. And then we released it, and I learned a cold, hard lesson, which is that your average person does not listen to the lyrics. So we released that song, and all the industry people around us were like, oh, it's going to do so well, it's going to be awesome. And then like half of the comments when we first released that song were people going, but it's so pop. And I was like, oh my God, listen to what we're talking about. Of course it's so pop. But it kind of went over a bunch of people. The funny thing is that in hindsight, now that song has had a lot of time, now people love that song when we play it at shows. But at the time when we released it, it kind of went like that.
Well, I thought it was brilliant. Like sitting in the studio,
thank you.
Like when it came out, I was like, oh my God, they're so smart. Like nobody's done this.
Thank you.
Good stuff. Good stuff. I wanted to ask you, what does it feel like to be introduced as Grammy-nominated Josh Ramsay of Marianas Trench? Like, that's sick. Sunk in. Like, I know it's been years now, but like, does it sink in?
Not as cool as Grammy winner. Yeah. I'm kidding. Actually, you know what's funny? A friend of mine who shall remain nameless, who's also another songwriter, producer for hire, he got nominated for that same Grammy Award a few years after that, and he was really upset when they didn't win. And I was kind of like, dude, you got to go. Like, are you kidding me? You know how many people would kill to be in that position? Like, are you kidding me? You're with like 4 other awesome songs probably, and like, I mean, that's as good as it's gonna get for most people. And the thing for me, it's weird seeing Grammy nominee in front of your name. Yeah, that doesn't sink in. Yeah. To me, actually, like the best stuff about that experience was you get to bring your family. And I got, my parents had supported me through, and my siblings and my lady. But my family had been so supportive, like since I was a little kid, since those road trips and singing the notes and the chords. And, my parents were worked as hard for my musical career as Olympian athletes' parents work for their career.
Yeah.
And getting to actually take my family then to the Grammys when we were nominated for like such a big award was sort of like the best part for me. And then sort of as my parents after that, like their health both kind of went down a little bit, and sort of having the means to make sure that I could take care of my family has sort of been really the best thing to come out of that song for me.
Yeah, that's awesome. And what was the best part about being at the Grammys? I know it was bringing them, but like, was there a moment like, I don't know, Elton John walked past you, or I don't know, something?
Well, I didn't know what to expect, right? I hadn't been before. And that's like the awards of the awards of the awards for our industry. So I was like, okay. So one thing they don't tell you, so like the Junos, right? I'm sure you've probably been to the Junos, right?
But I've heard the stories.
Okay, so you're aware that there is a Canadian music industry, and in this music group, we have awards, and it's called the Junos.
All that, of course, yeah.
Yes, of course. So what a lot of people at home might not know is at the Junos you go and they give away like 4 awards, 5 awards, but the day before there's like a dinner gala that's not televised where they give away like 150 awards or kind of thing. Like that's how the Junos works. So the Grammys, what they do is instead of having that televised event and the not televised event the previous day, they do it all on the same day. So you show up. They don't tell you this, but like all of that cool red carpet stuff that you see that looks like it's right before the award show, that's actually like that morning. And so you get there, there's a completely untelevised show where they give away the bulk of the awards. And like, we had never been to the Grammys. I don't know if I'm going again, so I'm going for the whole thing. So we walk the red carpet at like 10:30 a.m. or whatever. And we go in there. They also don't feed you. So by the time you're at the end of the show, and it's a dry event. Are you kidding me? So you sit there, you're there sort of like by the time the actual like televised awards show starts, you've already been there for like 8 to 10 hours, and you're starving and you're thirsty and you've got to go to the bathroom, and like now you got to figure out how to get mom in and the whole thing. It's a really, really long day, but it's so much fun and it's so surreal. And I was so grateful to go. I'm trying to think of like the one moment of being like, oh my God, like Elton John or whatever. Yeah, I did walk past Elton John. I don't know. The whole thing was surreal, though. I can't pick like a favorite thing. I'm very grateful that I got the opportunity to just go to such a thing. I do actually remember getting there and looking at our tickets and getting in the room, and it's in LA, and you're in the huge arena there. And I remember getting there and then looking at our tickets and being like, oh my God, we're on the floor in like the second row. Are we like right? Oh, whoa, wow. With a camera on us at all times. I was like, oh, geez. It was a very surreal experience for sure.
That's awesome. Well, I'm so proud of you, and I'm glad that you got to experience that. That's amazing.
Thank you. Yeah, for sure.
About the last couple of months, because obviously everybody's been locked in at home, and I'm just wondering, like, how that's gone for you. Like, did you take time to sort of just chill? Were you extra creative? Like, how is Josh Ramsay handling all this?
I am very fortunate that I'm in a position where we can take time off from our jobs if we need to. I'm certainly not at risk like all the people on the front lines, and those are the people that I think we ought to be very grateful for. Like my sister, one of my sisters is a nurse, and she lives in Los Angeles, and she does heart transplants on babies, and it's not like they can just stop what they do. I mean, I think for people in the music industry, it's kind of like, well, it's a forced vacation for the next year. Yeah. I think like for me, it's been fine. I moved a bunch of my studio stuff to my house, and I've just been recording a bunch of new material at home. So it's really not that difficult for me. It's kind of just life as usual, really. I'm kind of just like a hermit who sits around doing creative things anyway. So it's not been that big a deal for me. Like I said, I think a lot of people are having a much more difficult time at the moment. Yeah. And I've been just trying to experience gratitude and feel very thankful for my health and for the things that we do have. I'm very glad that the coronavirus, knock on wood, has never made it into the rest home where both my parents live. Yeah. That's sort of like my chief concern when it came out, but they've been at least great so far. So, like I said, I feel very lucky.
And have you been able to see the boys at all, like from the band, like lately maybe, or?
No.
That's fair.
No, we have not. There's like various email chains going around between the four of us always, but no, we haven't seen each other. I think those guys are they all have young kids, so they're all doing dad stuff.
Well, I have to ask you because I know you let it slip at an earlier live stream, and then you posted it on your Instagram that you got married. So congratulations.
I did. Thank you.
And first of all, best groom suit ever. It's like bedazzled and it looks amazing. Like your rock star marriage material. That's amazing.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, it wasn't like the hugest jump because her and I, oh geez, I think we first met, oh my God, I want to say beginning of 2006.
Wow. Okay. So it's a long haul.
Like you said, and we, you know, it's funny. Like you were asking me about the Grammys and stuff, and that is something I'm proud of. But actually, the thing I'm the most proud of, honestly, is like her and I were together for about 7 or 8 years. We were engaged to be married, and then we split up. The wedding didn't work out. We were apart for a couple of years, and then we found our way back to each other and worked on the things that needed working on, and now we're better than we've ever been. And now we got married. You know, and that's something I'm very proud of, that we're both willing to put in that hard work and fix stuff that needed fixing, you know?
That's so cool. And I wanted to ask you, like, I know you've been with her for a long time, but tell me what it felt like when you guys actually said, I do. Because I know, like, when I got engaged, like, so I'm engaged right now, I'm not married yet. We're on the 4-year engagement plan.
Congratulations. Yeah.
But
well, it's better than the 13-year.
When we actually got engaged, it was weird because there was like a feeling that kind of washed over both of us, that it was like, wow, like this is it. So I'm now wondering if something like that happened when you actually put the rings on each other's finger, and like, I don't know if there was like like just a different feeling. Like, I know everyday life is the same maybe, but was there like something where you're like, you really are like together, a team, a long-term thing? Like, was there a different feeling when you said I do?
I cried.
That's good. That's a good.
We felt, you know, I don't know if there was just like one moment, but our wedding itself was really fun. It was very us. What we did was, it was already like, it was very close to her birthday. And before we were engaged, I hadn't asked her or anything. Like, we had been back together, and we planned a trip to Vegas, not to get married, like just to go for her birthday. So we invited some of our friends. There was like maybe like 10 or 12 of our friends coming along to go to Vegas for the weekend. And the funny thing is, she actually asked me, she was like, should we maybe get married while we're in Vegas? And what she didn't know was I had already ordered the ring for her.
Wow.
But it was a custom build, and it took months to show up. So I had to like waffle out of it and be like, I don't think that's a good time for us to get married. But like, she didn't know I was already like, I'm waiting on the ring. So then the ring showed up about 2 weeks before we were going to go to Vegas for her birthday. So then I gave it to her. And asked her, and then I was like, so should we just get married while we're in Vegas? So then we had like 2 weeks to plan a wedding. So what we did was, we didn't tell any of our friends, and we didn't announce that we were engaged. Like, we didn't do any of that. We went to Vegas, and then there was supposed to be a day that we were going to do like a day on a party bus, and I went and picked up everyone from their various hotels in the party bus, and then just went, welcome to our wedding. And then it was like a surprise wedding, and we did that, and like took everyone to Cirque du Soleil and stuff. It was fun.
Oh my God, that's awesome. That's a great story, Josh. Well, congratulations. And I wanted to tell you that I saw the Instagram video of you letting her curl your hair.
Oh God.
Have you let her do more crazy things like that? Because I felt she was really enjoying all of that.
She is the type of person, I can guarantee, as a little kid, she definitely like would have dressed up her pet cat in like doll's clothing, like, you know, like that type of thing. And basically I'm her life-sized mannequin to do with as she sees fit. Generally to comical responses, such as me with little ringlets in my hair.
I was watching the video laughing out loud. Like, it made my morning. So thank you for that. You should do more.
Well, it really made her day. I wouldn't say it made mine, but it did make hers.
Next question. I have to ask you, because we're talking about hair and all that sort of good stuff, what does fashion mean for Josh? Like, your vibe and all that kind of stuff, like when you're on stage? Like, how does that play a part in everything?
Stage versus real life, I would say, are pretty somewhat different. I don't know. Stage, like, to me, oh my God, my dogs are freaking out. You guys probably can't hear that, but they're losing their minds. I think, like, for stage, I'm a little, like, for people who've seen us before, like, I'm pretty, you know, theatric, one could say. So I think for me, like, the thing on stage is more of, like, really getting into that larger than life character. Although I do dress pretty over the top in regular life as well, usually. That is true. I think I don't think I really, like, pay attention to, like, current fashion trends or post ones. I just make sure that I look rock and roll from any era. That could be today, that could be the 60s, that could be the 70s, that could be the 80s. As long as I feel like it's rock and roll, then I'm cool with it.
And I love, because, like, you know, I've been a fan of you guys for a long time, and I love every song comes on my show on Virgin. But I've always noticed, it's not but, it's and. I love that Marianas Trench is, like, Canadian pop band, but you have this, like, Aerosmithy rock vibe to you, and you get away with it. Like, and shouldn't say get away, but it's just, nobody else seems to be able to do that, and you guys are. So is it just because it's authentic you guys? Like, it's cool.
Thanks. I think, I don't know. I think the reason why is it that we can get away with that? Honestly, it's probably just confidence. Like, I just kind of wear what I wear confidently, and I don't really think about it. I remember, that's funny. When we were touring, what album was it? Because it was Sean Hook. So that would have been the end of our Astoria tour. I remember we were sitting in catering, like, before the show, and Sean Hook's, and I had been doing some press stuff, and then I was just walking around backstage and eating with everyone, and I was wearing these red leather pants, which I realized not a lot of people, but I was just wearing those because that's just what I wear. And I remember getting to a talk with Sean's band, and they're like, so you just dress like this, just whatever, just hanging out backstage, and you're just wearing, like, leather pants with, like, a silk scarf? And I was like, yeah, I don't know. I don't even think about it. I don't know. Like, I think that's kind of the same with whatever you wear. If you own it and you're confident about it, then people don't really look twice. And at this point, everyone's seen me in all these crazy outfits. It's not like people are really going to give me a weird look if I walk in wearing, I don't know, a rubber duck costume or something.
I have to ask you about your place in Canadian music, because I'm fortunate. I get to interview a lot of you Canadian artists right across the country. I love all of you, and I'm just wondering, like, how do you feel about the current Canadian music landscape? Like, how do you feel it is? Like, are you buddies with a lot? Like, you mentioned Sean Hook, like, he's a great guy. Like, are you all friends, kind of?
Yes. I mean, like, well, I mean, you know, from your job as well, like, the Canadian music industry is a very, you know what it is? That Canada, geographically speaking, is a very large company, or a very large country, I should say. Yeah. Geographically, yes, but in terms of the entertainment industry, we're like a small town. So it's sort of like everybody knows everybody. I honestly think the only person in Canada, this is a bold statement, but I think the only professional in the Canadian music industry that I have never met is probably Alanis Morissette. I think she's, like, the only one. Like, you meet everyone because there's just not that many of us. There's not that many people. You know, there's not that many people. We're also really fortunate that I think because actually, I don't know why. Maybe it's just because we're Canadians or something, or what, but there's something, I find that people in the Canadian music industry are a lot more humble, and there's a lot less ego. Yeah. A lot of times, a lot less people trying to act like a big deal. Yeah. And I don't know if you find this in your various interviews, but I find, anyway, the musicians who walk around like they're a huge big deal and act like they're like U2, they're always the ones who suck.
It's so true. So true.
It's true, man. Like, those are always the ones who suck.
It's so true. Is there, who does Josh Ramsay listen to right now, like, Canadian wise? Like, is there some, like, are you a Rhea May fan? Tyler Shaw? Like, who are you listening to?
That's so funny. Right before the world shut down, those two artists that you just mentioned are the two people I've most recently written songs with.
Amazing. Great.
So Rhea and I wrote a song together. Tyler and I wrote a song together. Sorry, since lockdown has happened, I wrote a song to get sent off to Walk Off the Earth. So they have a song of mine as well. But yeah, like I said, yes, Canadians all know each other. Yes, I love Ty. I love Rhea. They're both lovely people. Yeah, I mean, Canadians are just we're nice people, you know. What are you gonna do?
Fans, what's cool, like I know you guys have fans in the States, I know you guys have fans overseas. I've seen, like when I was researching for our interview today, like I read a bunch of interviews with like you and UK people. What does that feel like where you're not just Canadian, you're able to go global? Because there are ardent trenchers everywhere, which by the way, your fan name is Trenchers Are Awesome, like super ardent trenchers. Good name.
They named themselves. I had nothing to do with that. And I don't know why anyone would like our band as much as some people do, and I don't get it, but I'm thankful for it. I don't know. Like when we leave Canada, so when we go out and play shows in other places, the funny thing is, like, we only actually have a record label in Canada. Everywhere outside of Canada that we go and play, we are not commercially marketed. We don't have a record label. We're just an independent. Yet somehow, I mean, like, I don't know, our last record, Phantoms, I was not expecting that it was going to debut at #1 in America, but, like, that's pretty unheard of to do that when you don't even have a label or any promotion or anything. Because the label that we were on under Interscope, this was very frustrating, but right before we released, so, like, we worked very hard to try and get that big American record deal, and then we finally got it. And it was a record label that was inside of Interscope. So, and for you guys at home, Interscope's like the biggest label in the world, and then they have like several other smaller labels that are in the building that get their money. It's complicated, but we call them subsidiaries. Anyway, so we were on this label called Cherry Tree, and they gave us this huge budget. We did this huge album called Astoria. I was very proud of it. It was finally going to be our big U.S. release, and then a week before the album comes out, everyone at Cherry Tree got fired, and the label ceased to exist. This is a story that a lot of artists have. This is a very common story. So all of a sudden, that album came out, but we weren't on a label anymore. We didn't know what to do. So we went out and toured it anyway, and people came in America. We were like, what? What are these people doing here? How have they heard this? And then when Phantoms came out, we still didn't have a label, and Phantoms came out, and it debuted at #1, and it held at #1 for like a week. And I was like, what? And we went out, all of a sudden we're playing these huge shows in America, and I still don't understand where people are coming from. It's awesome. And then the same in Europe. Like the shows in Europe aren't as big as the shows in America, but they're still like very respectable shows. I don't understand how we're doing this, but I'll take it. It's almost like back in the day, like, I don't know, like Ani DeFranco used to be able to do that, just to like go places without being promoted and just kind of like do her thing. And I feel very lucky that we can do that. Again, I don't know how, but I'm very grateful.
And how does it feel? And I don't know if you know this, Josh, because you're in it, but like for me, again, watching and being, you know, a radio announcer, and I've been on Virgin since 2007. So I've seen the bands come and go. I really feel like you guys as Marianas Trench are like the Canadian pop band. Like you just are. Like, do you know that? Like, do you feel that? Okay. No. I said that, but that's how I feel. Like, because we keep playing your songs year after year, and like you guys are it.
You're far too kind. That's very nice of you. No, I don't think about that, and I don't feel that way. I feel, honestly, I just feel grateful to be invited, and I'm very lucky that people still want to listen to our songs, and I hope to be able to just keep doing that. It's pretty modest, pretty modest dreams over here.
If you're sitting in the car and a Marianas Trench song comes on, do you listen? Do you listen when you're in the car if your song comes on?
No. Short answer, no, I don't. I will listen to it because I'm also the producer and one of the mixers. I will listen to it if it's the first time I've ever heard it on the radio. Then I'll listen to it. So you guys watching this, there's another stage that happens when a song gets played on the radio that is different than when you hear it on your phone or back in the day on a CD. There's another signal chain that it goes through. So I always just make sure, because it goes through more compressors when it goes on the radio, I want to listen to it once just to make sure the mix sounds good on the radio. Yeah. After that, I won't. I will say, though, one time I was driving in my car and I had the top down and my big goofy black lab was riding shotgun, and we pulled up to a car full of people at a red light, and I noticed that they were blasting one of our songs, and I pulled up next to them. It was just like, that's awful, and then just pulled away. I
have to ask you about Montreal because we are Virgin Montreal. what do you love about Montreal? Because you've been here a few times, so I want to know what your thoughts on Montreal.
I have a lot of thoughts on Montreal. I love Montreal for many, many reasons. And I'm not just pandering. I actually really do mean that. One, it's one of the few times that I actually get to use some of my French because I did go to French immersion as a kid.
Did not know that.
I did, but I can speak Parisian French pretty well. French Canadian French I find very difficult to understand because I don't know the slangs, and everyone speaks at like 100 miles an hour. It's a lot easier to understand it in Europe, I will admit. One of the things I really love about Montreal, oh my God, I have such a great memory of playing there with Simple Plan. We had such a good time at that show. That was so much fun. And you know, like one of my favorite bands over the years, and they're not together anymore, but we toured with them so much, and they're such good guys. There was a band from Montreal called the New Cities. Yeah. I loved those guys. We toured together so much. They're such great guys. I'm still in touch with some of them. There's that. Obviously, there's like, I mean, that's one of the interesting things with Quebec as a whole is it really is a different culture than a lot of the Canadian culture. Even between the cities, like the differences between Montreal and Quebec City. Quebec City is like a whole nother world. Like you're like, oh, have we left Canada? Like this is totally different here. But it's so beautiful and gorgeous. I'm trying to think what else is always. I mean, there's definitely a great food scene in Montreal. How much mileage? There's a good gentleman's bar scene in Montreal. How much am I allowed to say about that?
That's close.
Yeah, we all. And you know what I will say too. And this is not made up. This is true. Yeah. Out of all of the rowdiest crowds that we find on the tour circuit, Montreal is right up there in like the top 2, top 3 of just the rowdiest people. Yeah. Even if it's a small show. I mean, even when it was our first album and we were playing for like 150 people, yeah, those 150 people sounded like 1,000 people. Yeah. It's true. The only other place I have seen crowds that fired up is Scotland.
Okay. I've heard.
I don't know why. Glasgow and Edinburgh, people are also like that kind of fired up. But I don't know what it is. Montreal, you guys are real fired up over there. And also, you know, another thing is I think people in Montreal are a little more open to my flamboyant, showy nature.
1,000%. Yeah, that's cool. Would you ever record an album in Montreal, or like? 'Cause I'm sure your studio is like your jam, but like, would you ever do it somewhere else?
I would. We did do. I mean, Astoria. We did record. We recorded that on location in like a penthouse that I used to live in. There was a studio in Morin Heights near Montreal that I used to always want to work at called Le Studio. Yeah. It's where the Police recorded Synchronicity, which is one of my favorite albums of all time. And you guys at home, oh my God, this studio is so cool. It's literally in the middle of the woods. So like in the control room, all the glass, if you look outside the glass, you're just looking at woods. You're like totally secluded. Unfortunately, that studio went out of business and it's abandoned. It's just sitting in the woods with like microphones lying in the dirt and stuff. It's so sad. But it's like Rush recorded there. I mean, a whole bunch of people have recorded there. I always wanted to work in that specific studio, but unfortunately it is not there anymore.
Okay. I did want to ask you too, explain, and I know a lot of your hardcore fans right now will know this already, but like for people who don't know, explain the importance of Shakespeare to Josh Ramsay.
Oh wow. You can just say you. You don't have to use my full name. You can say you. Okay, do that. I think to me, I don't know. Shakespeare's really got a lot for me. He's been very important to me. I remember even as a little kid being in Europe and visiting his home in England, and it was even like a very almost spiritual place for me even then, and I was like 10. I even remember like walking through his old house and the doors are so much lower from that time because people were so much shorter. Even then I was only like 10 years old, and I was like, I have to duck to get through this. But he's been really important to me in a lot of ways. I think for people like discovering Shakespeare who are like in high school or something, maybe it's a little weird because it's English, but you kind of have to translate it as you go at first, and then eventually you kind of become acclimatized to it. And to me, when I read his stuff, I find even without the sentiment, even if you just look at how prolific he was and how much work, like just the body of work as a whole, from poems to sonnets to plays, it's amazing that the way every sentence is strung together in this beautiful poetry. I just find like reading his words to me is almost like looking at a painting. Do you know what I mean? Like the way those words flow together, it's just so beautiful. Even the drier plays, like he wrote a bunch of plays that are sort of called like the history plays, which at the time would have been kind of like their version of soap operas that are really dry to read now. All of the Henrys are the history plays. Even and the Richards, the King Richards and stuff. But even if you read those, they still have such gorgeous ebb and flow to the way it's all put together. I don't know. I think a lot of modern pop writers maybe don't. It certainly doesn't mean I'm so sweet. It probably means I'm the odd one out. But I think a lot of modern songwriters just throw together whatever and kind of go like, that's good enough. And that's not really for me, because I sort of feel like this is something I've really learned out of experience. But if you're going to get up on stage and you're going to sing the same words every night, possibly for the rest of your life, like if this next song you're working on is going to be a big hit and it's going to be part of your catalog now, and now you might have to play this song another 5,000 times in your lifetime, don't you want those words that you're singing to actually mean something to you, as opposed to just being like, I like my butt and this is how I shake it, or whatever pop song you might be thinking. And there's nothing wrong with those songs. I'm certainly not saying there's something. I remember hearing Dave Grohl talk about some pop music, and he was like, it's fun, but if your favorite song is about your butt, you might have a problem. Like, and I always thought that was really funny. I also got really sick of, I feel like, okay, so the Black Eyed Peas released, what is it called? Got a Feeling? Is that what that song is called? Is that what it's called?
Yeah.
Great pop song. Undeniably a great pop. Everyone loves that song. I love that song. We all love that song. It's fantastic. But for me, the problem was that song came out, and then for the next 3 years, every song was about tonight's the night. That was every pop song for 3 or 4 years. Tonight's the night. I can feel it. It's gonna happen. Whatever it is, I don't know. But we're living for tonight, and tomorrow doesn't exist. That's every song for years. And to me, I wanted to express something that wasn't that. Because they already did it. No one's going to do it better than the Black Eyed Peas already did it. I would rather try and have a new thought.
That's very good. I love that. I did want to ask you too, because I love that you're so passionate about lyrics. You've mentioned 80s a couple of times, and I did want to ask you, I know that you are a fan of Queen and Freddie Mercury, and I think I read somewhere Brian Wilson. I'm just wondering, are there 80s people that we may not know that you would appreciate? Because I wish he was still alive. I wish, you were doing a duet with George Michael. Are people like that?
Oh my God, you and me both. I love George Michael. Oh my God, he's amazing. Oh my God, you guys, you should go to YouTube, and George Michael has this awesome song called Freedom. All we have to do now is take the lies and make them true somehow. If you Google him doing that live, there's an amazing version of him doing it just with a gospel choir, and they're all around one microphone. It's live on MTV. Oh my God, it's one of my go-to, I need to be a better singer. Watch this. I love George Michael. I really do.
Okay.
Other singers from the 80s. I don't know. George Michael's a good one for sure. Michael Jackson was big for me, for sure. Like everyone, I guess, every male singer. Michael was huge for me. Well, one lesson I took away from Michael that isn't the one that people would probably think, but was taking cardio exercise very seriously. Because if you watch the old stuff of Michael, he did lip sync sometimes, but not very often. Only when he was doing super challenging choreography work. But I really took away how good his cardio must have been, because he'd be doing this like super hard, detailed dancing, but also just crushing vocals at the same time. So what I started doing years ago was when I go for a run, I'll go for a run, but I sing the whole time.
Yeah.
To work on breath control, because I really, like, as a front man, I really want to be like exciting and jump around a lot. And there are so many times where you go running around on stage, and then you get to the microphone, you're like, great, now I have to sing some super high, or whatever. So like cardio is actually one of the main things that I took away from Michael.
Are you really careful, Josh, when you're on tour, like about what you're eating and sleeping, and like, you know what I mean, like all that stuff? Yeah. Okay.
So, oh my God, a little bit. There's some things I don't have to do as hardcore these days. When we were doing both Ever After and Astoria, we were traveling with a rig where I would fly over the audience. So when we were traveling with this big, huge fly rig, a dear friend of mine, Boris, who designed a bunch of shows for Cirque du Soleil, he designed the flying rig for me that we would travel with, but I couldn't gain or lose any weight on those tours because I mean, like a pound or two, sure, but like anything more than that in either direction, and the counterweight on the flying rig wouldn't be correct for me for the show every day. So I had to be like very, very strict about what I was eating and drinking before the show, or every day or whatever.
Oh my God. That's
Yeah, my other big one, I've got a couple. One of them is I never ever go out to the bar after the show.
okay.
I want to, but if you get it, the easiest way to lose your voice is being in a loud environment where you have to raise your voice the whole time. So you add on some loud background music or / loud live band, and 10 grown-up beverages, and I'm gonna get loud. And then the next day, then I'm gonna get up for the show. And they're going to be like, Josh, you ready for sound check? And I'll be like, yeah, I'm great. And just put me in. I sound awesome. And nobody can sing like that. So I never go to the bar when we're on the road, much to my chagrin. The other thing I try and avoid is this is going to sound self-important, and I don't mean it to, but I sort of like, specifically as a singer, I'm kind of like, you would call what I do, like, I'm kind of like a specialist. Like I kind of do high note singing. That's kind of like my thing. I can't do that at 6 a.m. I just can't. I have to warm up for a really long time to get there. So another thing I try and never do when we're on the road, breakfast television.
Yeah.
You ever notice how nobody sounds good on those? You know why? It's because no one was meant to sing at 6 a.m. in the morning. Who came up with that? I want to call up Goodbye America and say, hey guys, none of you are singers. Who thought of this?
Oh my God, it's so true. That is very true. Yeah, yeah.
Oh, like think about like even like I'm sure you've done your share of morning shows. You must have.
Now, so.
Right? So like even just talking, it's not like you wake up at 5 and you go, okay, I'm ready. I sound great, right? Like no, you don't.
Agreed. Yeah, agreed. I could talk to you all night, but I won't do that to you. But I want to end with 5 quick questions. Is that okay? 5, like I call it my Fireside Fast 5. You ready?
Okay, I was born ready.
Okay. Favorite comfort food right now?
Oh my God. Cannabis gummies.
They have those?
Yeah.
I don't. Okay, that's good to know. I'm happy to know that. I eat regular gummies, so this is good to know.
I have the rock and roll version.
What's the most adventurous thing that you have done in your life?
Oh my God. I'm a very adventurous guy by nature, so I don't think there's just one.
Bungee jumped out of a plane. I don't know, like flown to Paris just because. I don't know, something.
I have done a lot of ridiculous things. Okay, I'll answer one, but it's not the most adventurous, but it's just the first thing that popped into my head.
Okay.
Okay, so we were talking about Call Me Maybe and stuff. So like when royalties and stuff like that for any song, it takes about a year before they show up. That's just how it works.
Yeah.
It takes a year before you start seeing stuff from that. So we knew that something crazy was going to be coming, and it was like I was going to get this I didn't even know how much it was going to be for, but I was going to get this big check that I was going to get to deposit, and I waited my whole career to do something like that. Yeah. So rather than just do like a wire transfer or whatever, I got them to print me out the check. I wanted to rent a horse and carriage, but they wouldn't let me do that in Vancouver. But I did get a limo, and I filled it with my friends, and I put everyone in like top hats and feather boas and monocles, and we were drinking champagne when we went into the bank together. We were like openly had a bottle of champagne in the bank, and I had sunglasses on, and this guy was like, "Sir, what are you doing? You can't be just drinking in the bank." And I was like, and he was like, "Why are you in the business lineup?" And I was like, "I have business, sir." I was like super drunk. And then he's like, "Sir, honestly, you're going to have to take off your sunglasses." And I took off my sunglasses, and I was wearing 2 monocles underneath the glasses. It was quite ridiculous.
That's Josh. That's a great. I did not know about that story. That is very good. Best part about Montreal. I'm putting you on the spot. I know, but best thing about Montreal.
Well, I think we've already covered a lot of them.
Okay. Is it food? As you like a foodie? Like, is it food? The screaming thing.
Nightlife.
Okay.
Great nightlife.
Okay. Cool. Now I've been excited to ask you this question all day. As a solid songwriter such as yourself, I know that you could appreciate other good songwriters. Is there a song in like the last year or so that you wish you had written? Like, are you like, oh my God, that's like a good jam? Like in the pop world.
This year, I'm trying to think of what else has come out this year. I don't know. That's a good question, but I can't think of a good answer at the moment.
You'll think about that next time when I get you back. Is that good?
Yeah.
And
give me a couple years to work on that, and I'll have something for you.
Last question. What is your favorite board game? Do you have one?
Cranium.
Oh, that's cool. Okay, that's good. I appreciate that. Josh, thank you. I love you. This is not a surprise. So thank you for doing this.
Thank you. That's very sweet. I really appreciate you having me. Thanks so much.
You're welcome. And when you come to Montreal, when all this is over, we want you to have you come at the station and hang out. So we can't wait.
Oh, I can't wait. We would love that. Thank you.
All right, Josh, have a great night. Thank you so much.
You too. Enjoy the Christmas lights.
I will. Thanks. Bye.
Bye, guys.
All right. Josh Ramsay, Marianas Trench, thank you so much for hanging out. We've had so many people with us all night long. I really appreciate it. It means the world to me. We will be back next week for another fireside chat with Ralph. And don't forget that we also have our Virgin Radio Pub Quiz on Tuesday night at 7:30. Guys, thank you so much for hanging in. I really appreciate it. Kelly Alexander, peace out.